Hi everyone, thanks for taking time to join me today. In this video, I'm going to share my reflection on the professional dispositions that I believe to help me be an effective educator. In this self-assessment survey, I did strongly agree with these dispositions, and I'm going into my 4th year teaching. So in my 3 years of teaching, I feel like I possess 7 of the 10 pretty strongly. The first one being the foundation and believing that all students can learn, which means setting realistic goals that reflect each child's unique starting point in the classroom. I use differentiated reading groups and provide individual support, whether it's through visuals, guided practice, or one-on-one check-ins, because I believe every child can grow with the right support. I am a first grade inclusion teacher, so I have IEPs, 504s. I've had students who do not speak English as their first language, and I have general education students, so I have a mix of all of them. So it's important for me to meet them where they're at and see where their starting point is, so that way as the year continues to go on, I can support them to what they need. The next one being sensitive to individual learning and social needs. Like I said, I'm an inclusion teacher. I am constantly adapting for students with different needs. Sometimes a student might need a sensory break. I've had students need a wobble stool instead of a regular chair to wiggle around in a little bit while I'm teaching, and it helps them to focus better. Sometimes I've had students get overstimulated and they needed to go with another adult and take a little brain break and walk around the hall just to kind of reset. I simplify directions all the time. I make modifications to assignments all the time. And I do anything that will support their learning that's best for them. Honestly, I've had a year where almost every child's morning work was different from one another, just based on what they needed. The next one, it's also important that I always embrace cultural diversity. I don't just acknowledge who my students are, I celebrate who they are. So in my classroom, we read a lot of diverse books, we talk about family traditions, and we honor where the students come from. This helps every child feel seen and valued, and it builds empathy amongst the peers. I know, like I said, I had students where English is not their first language, and I've loved getting to know about their backgrounds and learn more about their cultures. I feel like I am learning about them as they're learning about me. Next, educators should promote social justice and equity, maintain appropriate standards for confidentiality, and exercise fairness in all areas, including assessment. For example, when giving assessments, I ensure students who need accommodation, like extended time or quiet space, receive them. I don't make it a big vocal deal. I just make it happen in a very nonchalant way, so no other students are asking, why is this person doing that? And I always tell my students to focus on themselves, and everybody needs something different sometimes. And the confidentiality one for me is huge. I have a lot of documents, IEPs, 504s, accommodations, and I have a big file folder of all of them, and in my classroom, I'm the only person who knows where this folder is. And if I have to talk about a student or figure something out for a student, or another adult asks me how the student is doing today, I will always use their first and last name initial, and I'll never just say their name because of the confidentiality. That way nobody can pick up on who I am speaking about. The next one, educators should exercise sound judgment and ethical behavior. These show up in everyday decisions that we make, from how we handle behavior and how we interact with parents. There have been times where in a meeting for a student with an IEP, I have had to speak up even when it's uncomfortable and express what I see in the classroom and express what I feel is going to best benefit the student. And sometimes, even in not such a formal setting, we make reading groups and we switch them every 8 weeks. My class is only open to the first intervention block because my math falls under it, and the 3 other teachers on my team have 2 consecutive blocks. So I've had to learn to speak up and say, hey, can you guys please keep in mind that my class can only go in this time slot because of my math schedule, and then everybody can help me accommodate for my students and what works best for my class. The next one, educators should promote and support curiosity and encourage active inquiry. Um, Promoting curiosity in young learners means encouraging them to wonder, explore, and ask questions. I do a lot of read alouds, so I'll say, how does this character look? How do you think they feel? Why do you think they feel this way? Have you felt like this character before? What do you think is going to happen next? What do you think they could have done differently? Have you had an experience where you felt like this character? Especially for the little ones, the more enthusiastic and the more we perform with our voice while we're reading, the more engaged that they are going to be. The next one, educators should model integrity by their words and actions. I hold my students accountable for behavior, so I also hold myself accountable to the same standard. There have been times in my classroom where I have written the wrong thing on the board, or in math I've written the wrong number, and a student will say, Miss Inrella, isn't it supposed to be this? Or you're supposed to write this instead of that. And I've looked at them and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, sometimes I would even say, like, I don't think so, and then I'll go back and look, and lo and behold, they were right, I was wrong. So I will look at that student and I will actually apologize to them and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, thank you for fixing it, and I'm sorry I told you that you were wrong, because you were right in this situation. So the more that we own up to our own mistakes, they are going to own up to their mistakes, and if we model that kind of behavior, the respect level between teacher and student is just going to skyrocket. Saying that I'm sorry and they were right and I was wrong helps me even to respect myself and be able to say, okay, I can admit to when I'm wrong, because I also like to show my students that just because I'm a teacher does not mean I am a perfect human being. We all make mistakes and it's going to happen. Kids notice that demonstrating warmth and genuine care is something I strive to do with students every day. Every day before my students go home, I will give each one of them a hug. I will say, bye, I love you, I will see you tomorrow, because we might be the best thing that child sees for 5 days a week for 8 hours straight. So I always want to make sure that my kids know that they are seen and that they are loved. The last one I feel like I do well is educators should be committed to the profession of teaching and learning. I've attended meetings this year to help volunteer in more events for the school, and it's really helped me to grow within my school community and to help students and staff know who I am. The first couple of years being a newer and younger teacher, I was shy, so I kind of hid behind the scenes a little bit, but now that I've actually stepped out there, it has helped a lot. Things I can work on is educators should recognize and reflection combined with experience leads to growth as a professional. I did not really look for feedback my first few years of teaching. Now I'm open to going back and self-reflecting and asking a coworker to help me reflect on things that I can improve to do differently in my classroom. Another one where I can grow is teachers understand the effect of community involvement and leadership as it applies to the welfare of others in the educational setting. It's not so much me with the kids, it's me communicating with the parents. I do communicate with the parents, no problem, but I feel like for me I can work on something such as messaging a parent if they've jumped up a reading level or if they've become more of an active participant in the class. I think for me, instead of waiting until the report card comments, being able to set aside a few minutes a day to positively reinforce what the student has done well can help my connection with families grow. And the last one I need to improve on is educators should demonstrate professional friendliness, warmth and genuine caring in their relationships with others by providing intellectual, emotional, and spiritual support. I am a friendly teacher. I think I'm a friendly teacher. Again, being younger, I felt that I would be judged a little bit because I don't have as much experience as some of the older teachers. So a goal for me is just to be able to share my ideas and not be afraid to speak up or to share my ideas with others. What a professional educator looks like and how they behave and what standards guide their thinking and action. As a first grade inclusion teacher, professionalism shows up in big and small moments. It means coming to school with a clear mind and a clear heart, no matter how challenging the previous day was. It's showing up for every single student that you have and that you come in contact with, and the ones who follow directions and the one who tests every limit with the same level of care, consistency, and belief in their potential. Professionalism also means confidentiality and ethical behavior, just to remember to stay confidential in my classroom. Um, and modeling humility and honesty is a big one for me as well, because sometimes I will walk into another teacher classroom and they are teaching, and it could be the littlest thing of a student hearing me say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, I can come back," so they can learn these social cues. To me, these dispositions aren't just boxes to check, they're values to live by, and when we embrace them fully through both words and actions, we don't just become better teachers, we become people who impact lives. And just thank you to all the educators out there for the work you do in shaping the next generation.